Hi all, good afternoon, and welcome to Master Chorale of Tampa Bay's second Measure by Measure program, Reflections. My name is Brett Carlin, and I'm the Artistic Director and Conductor of the chorale, and it's so good to see so many of you logged on here this afternoon for our Measure by Measure Reflections program. 41 years ago, in April of 1979, the Master Chorale was founded by Dr. Robert Sommer, and since that time has been responsible for some of the most significant musical and community events in the Tampa Bay area. In addition to having a great effect on the quality and frequency of choral music in our own community, Master Chorale also has a significant effect on the international choral community by way of supporting and commissioning some of the most influential composers and modern choral works. So today's program, Reflections, will take a look at some of our most significant commissions, as well as celebrating our history as a community organization by highlighting some of our individual singers in live broadcast performances this afternoon. First up on our program is a commission entitled Sing, Sing Unto God that was written by Stephen Paulus to celebrate the Master Chorale's 25th anniversary in 2004. It's a very energetic piece that's organized into a few major sections. The piece opens with an introduction section that frames the entire work. We hear a timpani roll that crescendos into a choral shout of the word God. Then the choir sings these short phrases that are punctuated in kind of a call and response way between a large brass ensemble and single percussionist. This helps to establish this noble, majestic, and very broad feel. Let's take a listen to just the first few seconds. When I listen to this excerpt, this piece in general, but particularly that introduction section, it establishes a particular American sound. I think the musical language of Aaron Copland is synonymous and in many ways representative of the classical American orchestral sound. And this introduction has always reminded me a bit of the Fanfare for the Common Man or A Lincoln Portrait, two of Copland's most famous works. And maybe that resonates with some of you or you hear those similar qualities. The opening then continues to develop the initial musical idea by making each phrase longer and longer, and continues developing the text from Psalm 46 through more energetic and varied rhythms that helps the piece gain a little bit of steam and a little bit of energy. The second section departs from the slow, stately introduction as we see the first appearance of text from Psalm 47, Clap hands, ye people. The tempo immediately picks up, the choir's phrases become much shorter, there's mixed meter and syncopated rhythms, and the rhythmic claps for the choir are physically notated in the music. This is all in an effort to establish a new character of celebration and joyous, active rejoicing. Let's give a listen to this second section. Clap hands, ye people. After this second section, which you can hear is quite different from that initial introductory, broad, stately material, we then hear a recap of that introductory material. The majestic, sweeping choral phrases where the choir is singing in the exact same rhythm, punctuated by the brass and percussion, helps act essentially as transitional material, like a touchstone as we go from each new section to the next. Then the third major section is totally different than what we've heard before. All of a sudden, we break into a mini fugue, which was one of the most common forms in sacred music of the Baroque and Classical era, and it's punctuated by church bells to help establish a particularly sacred and traditional, yet at the same time celebratory mood. Let's listen to that third section excerpt. After this mini fugue or kind of fugato, the introductory majestic chords come back yet again, and they swell to the loudest and broadest moment in the piece. And it really sounds like a finale. It sounds as though this final chord, which reaches a fortissimo plus dynamic, is it. But Mr. Paulus throws a curveball and then introduces a new energetic finale in mixed meter with alternating time signatures that gives us a very different sort of almost frenzied energy right into the end. We'll listen to that finale moment.
Sing unto God, unto our God, sing praises and sing the praises songs, rejoice. Sing unto God, unto our God, unto our King. Sing unto God, unto our God.
So now that we've gotten a sense of the work and a little bit of the pacing of it through this little guided tour, let's go ahead and give a full listen to Stephen Paulus's Sing, Sing Unto God, which was a Master Chorale of Tampa Bay 25th Anniversary Commission.
God is our strength and our refuge.
If you're just joining us, that was Sing Unto God, a Master Chorale of Tampa Bay original commission by Stephen Paulus for the event of the organization's 25th anniversary, a really extraordinary piece for large brass ensemble, percussion, and symphony chorus. And you might have heard some chromatic notes right there at the end. And for those of you that are particularly familiar with solo piano and orchestral rep, you might have heard Pictures at an Exhibition, which is a Mussorgsky piece and then orchestrated by Ravel. But there's a moment that reminds me of a very famous movement out of that work right into the end. Our next piece has become a sort of signature piece for the Master Chorale, although it was not an original commission for this ensemble, but rather for the Dale Worland Singers. It's another short work composed by Stephen Paulus called The Road Home. It is a very simple verse and refrain structure, but it's so effective for the message and content of the piece. Throughout the song, the text describes returning and coming home after being lost or wandering. And the simple form and the folk harmony and structure of the piece fits the message perfectly. There's really two main components only to the piece. First is what I call the home theme, which sounds like this. This short four-measure phrase, which you can see up on the screen in front of you right now, is so amazing to me. There's no text other than this neutral oo vowel for the chorus and a very simple melody in the soprano, yet it perfectly captures this feeling of bittersweet nostalgia. Listen to the clip just one more time, and you'll hear the soprano leads with that very simple, almost stepwise the whole way through melody, but then the other voice parts add harmony that includes a special moment of dissonance in the second full measure of music, which helps establish this melancholy and nostalgic feeling. After this short home theme that opens the piece, it comes back over and over again to organize the piece in this verse-refrain structure. Then we hear the main tune and the first verse, which continues to capture this bittersweet and nostalgic, almost melancholy feeling that permeates the entire piece and makes you feel warm and fuzzy and at home. Listen for just a few seconds to about 2/3 of the main verse. This beautiful melody actually comes from an existing tune out of the Southern Harmony Songbook of 1835 and is so perfectly married with the text about being lost or wandering and wanting to return home. The entire tune is based on a pentatonic scale, penta of course meaning 5, and it includes 5 main tones, the first, second, third, fifth, and sixth of any major scale. Pentatonic scales have existed for centuries and are present in almost all musical cultures of the world. So this harmony helps to make the piece musically universal. We'll now listen to the full recording of the piece with Andrea Peacock as soprano solo and James K. Bass conducting the Master Chorale of Tampa Bay. This recording is also available on our disc, The Peace Project. It's a live concert recording. Hope you enjoyed that, ladies and gentlemen. Again, if you're just joining us, that was The Road Home by Stephen Paulus with Dr. James K. Bass conducting and Andrea Beacock as our soprano soloist. Now let's welcome our first featured Master Chorale member to the program, Stephon. Stephon, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you just fine. Welcome and good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
You too. I'm doing great this morning. Thank you.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got involved in Master Chorale.
All right, sure. Well, my name is Stephon Mikell. I am 27, and I am a baritone who flexes as a tenor a little bit in Master Chorale. And this would complete my 5th year. Actually joined the timing was perfect. I got a job out here, and I was like, what's a good choir? And I went to the site, and it's like auditioning now. It's perfect.
Fantastic. So how long have you been a member of the chorale?
This would complete my 5th year in the chorale.
Okay, excellent. And I'll make a comment on Stephon's note about being a baritone who flexes tenor. Tenor are the rarest of breed in choral culture and in choral communities. So when I first came here at the Master Chorale of Tampa Bay, Stephon had been singing in the bass section, but for the first year and a half, he was singing tenor, and he is known in certain choruses of masterworks that we perform in TFO to jump up to the tenor line and back to the bass line. So he's a bridge voice. If you're looking at the choir, he's on his right side as a tenor and on his left side as a bass. And depending on the concert, he kind of picks and chooses what he's going to sing, depending on the balance of the ensemble. And Stephon, just tell us a little bit too. I know that you've been a member for a few years of our youth initiative outreach ensemble that Dia McReynolds conducts. Can you just tell us a little bit about your experience with the in-school presentations and what Master Chorale does to do some outreach to elementary age kids?
Well, sure. So so we actually do it in a couple of different ways. Sometimes we have a concert where we showcase just the voices of the choir and what they can do, and introduce the children to a lot of different masterworks that they might not have been introduced to otherwise. Not necessarily masterworks, but all different types of choral literature. And then sometimes we go in directly into the classes and work directly with a small group of them. And it's always just such an interesting and a really exciting experience. And one of my favorite things about it is just Adia, who is our leader, has a way with children that just keeps them so engaged and active, and it's wonderful to see.
Most definitely. Well, thanks for sharing that, Stephon. And for those of you that might not be familiar with Dia McReynolds, she also is the artistic director of Lumina Youth Choirs, a wonderful organization in the Tampa Bay area, and has been a longtime artistic partner of the Master Chorale of Tampa Bay and featured in many of our programs, including some holiday concerts. Most recently, our Christmas with the Master Chorale concert just a year and a half ago or so. Well, Stephon, tell us, what piece did you prepare and what are you going to be doing for us today?
All right, sure. So I decided to sing something kind of in the realm of musical theater, and I'll explain why really quick. I like to think of what I like to sing as rather eclectic, but also kind of whatever is on the radio now you hear me sing, and then whatever I've sung in a choir. Like, those are my favorites to go to. So this song that I chose is Waving Through a Window, which came from the 2017 musical of the year, Dear Evan Hansen, and it's kind of our introduction to our titular character. And I chose it because, well, 2 things. One, it's kind of a singer song that has a big range and is really fun to sing. Like, I'm always singing it randomly in the car. And secondly, if you take the lyrics a little more literally than they actually are in the musical, then you can kind of apply it to today's age, because the main words in the chorus say, I'm tap, tap, tapping on the glass, waving through a window. It's kind of saying, instead of interacting with people, and he has very different reasons for it in the musical, but instead of interacting with people, we wave through a window at other people and tap on the glass, which could kind of be analogous to how we interact with our phones nowadays. So.
Most definitely. And I can appreciate during this time of social distancing, when we're considering plastic shields in between wind players of an orchestra and trying to communicate and socialize with each other, the idea of communicating or waving through a window. I've seen many birthday celebrations that have been drive-by car parades. Mm-hmm. It also certainly is analogous and applicable kind of to all of our situation probably today. Yeah. Well, fantastic. Thanks so much for just sharing a little bit, and thanks so much for preparing this broadcast for us, Stephon. Let's go ahead and listen to you sing Waving Through a Window from Dear Evan Hansen.
I've learned to slam on the brake before I even turn the key, before I make the mistake, before I lead with the worst of me. Give them no reason to share, no slipping up if you slip away. But we've got nothing to share. No, I've got nothing to say. Step out of the sun if you keep getting burned. Step out of the sun because you've learned, On the outside, always looking in, will I ever be more than I've always been? 'Cause I'm tapping on the glass. I'm waving through a window. I try to speak, but nobody can hear, so I wait around for an answer to appear. Well, I'm watching people pass, waving through a window. Can anybody see? Is anybody waving back at me? We start with stars in our eyes. We start believing that we belong, but every sun doesn't rise, and no one tells us where we went wrong. Step out of the sun if you keep getting burned. Step out of the sun because you've learned, On the outside, always looking in, will I ever be more than I've always been? 'Cause I'm tapping on the glass, waving through a window. I try to speak, but nobody can hear, so I wait around for an answer to appear while I'm watching people pass, waving through a window. Can anybody see? Is anybody waving? When you're falling in a forest and there's nobody around, do you ever really crash or even make a sound? When you're falling in a forest and there's nobody around, do you ever really crash or even make a sound? When you're falling in a forest and there's nobody around, do you ever really crash or even make a sound? When you're falling in a forest and there's nobody around, do you ever really crash or even make a sound? Did I even make a sound? Did I even make a sound? It's like I never made a sound. Will I ever make a sound? On the outside, always looking in, will I ever be more than I've always been? 'Cause I'm tapping on the glass, waving through a window. I try to speak, but nobody can hear, so I wait around for an answer to appear while I'm watching people pass, waving through a window. Can anybody see? Is anybody waving back at me? Yes, anybody waving,
Fantastic performance. If you're just joining us, that was Master Chorale member Stephon Mikell singing Waving Through a Window from Dear Evan Hansen. Beautiful performance and a really uplifting message for us on our program this afternoon. Thank you so much, Stephon. Now we'll move to two movements from Master Chorale Commission from 2008. In 2008, the Master Chorale commissioned two different composers, Libby Larsen as well as choral luminary Alice Parker. And we'll listen to two movements of Alice Parker's 2008 commission for the chorale, The Rock and the River, which are modern settings of the famous spirituals I Can't Hide and I Got a Hidin' Place.
Cry out! and nobody here gonna put me out. I'm in Canaan land. I got a hiding place right there. I'm in Canaan land.
That was I Can't Hide and I Got a Hidin' Place from The Rock and the River by Alice Parker, a Master Chorale of Tampa Bay commission from 2008, the second movement of which featured Jason Burke, baritone solo. Now let's go ahead and welcome our next featured Master Chorale member to the program, Chantal Lester. Hey Chantal,
Hi.
are you there?
Hi, Brett. How are you?
I'm doing okay, thanks. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. How are you doing?
Great.
Excellent. Where are you calling us from right now in the Tampa area?
I'm in Seminole Heights, Old Seminole Heights, and I am in our office studio.
Okay, fantastic. I used to live in Seminole Heights right off Powhatan Avenue, right kind of on that and Florida Avenue, just a little bit away from the Independent, which was kind of a haunt for me after rehearsals for a drink.
I didn't know that we were neighbors.
Well, Chantal, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got connected with Master Chorale.
Well, it goes back to, I started choral music when I was 8, and I was in the Gulf Coast Youth Choir, which is now Lumina Choir, for a short period of time. I went to go visit my youth choir director, who I found out later was a graduate of Princeton. I did not know that when I was growing up, but I visited him when I was 18. I asked him about any choirs that he knew of, and he said, "You must audition for the Master Chorale of Tampa Bay. It's the thing." And this was when Dr. Zielinski was over it. So in 2006, I auditioned and got in. And with the exception of a few years of hiatus in between, I've been a part and want to stay. So.
Excellent. And Chantal, of course, I know you personally, and I know a little bit about your music history, but or rather your history with music and experience. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience as a praise leader and as a professional musician yourself?
Yes, I began getting involved with worship leading at age 23. And that was the first time I really had sung anything by myself. So I kind of came late to the game, and I learned a lot in a short period of time, kind of being thrown in. And my husband and I are both musicians, and up until the pandemic, we were full-time musicians, and I teach voice and piano from home as well. So.
Okay, awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about the piece that you prepared for us today.
So this piece, the Philippians Hymn, I was kind of charged with, can you write something based on the book of Philippians? And I said, you know what? I just want to take the entire book and compartmentalize it into the gist of what Paul was writing to the Philippians church. And even though I write both secular and religious text, and often I write, my goal is for it to be creative, artistically, and therefore it becomes cryptic, just with artistic expression. My goal was that this would be extremely simple and easy to understand for anyone hearing it. So that was my main goal.
Fantastic. Well, I of course have had the chance to hear this piece, and it's a really beautiful, simple, direct, yet powerful message. So let's go ahead and listen to Philippians Hymn by Chantal Lester. Thanks, Chantal.
Thank you.
These trials
That was the Philippians Hymn by an original hymn by Master Chorale member Chantal Lester. Chantal, that's such a beautiful piece, and you performed it so beautifully and so earnestly. So thank you so much for sharing your art with us today. As we've talked about throughout this afternoon, Master Chorale has had a long tradition of supporting the choral art form through commissioning new pieces by world-renowned composers. When you commission a piece as a conductor, though, you're always taking a bit of a risk. Fortunately, Master Chorale got a home run in 2001 by a young composer named Eric Whitacre. For those of you who don't know this name, he's the closest thing to a choral rock star that exists today. Master Chorale's former artistic director, Joe Michael Scheibe, commissioned a piece called Luxarumque, which is now one of the most performed and highest grossing choral works of the last 20 years. And on every single copy that is distributed around the world, commissioned by the Master Chorale of Tampa Bay, appears at the top of the first page. You may also be familiar with this piece as one of the first virtual choir projects that gained widespread attention. I'm going to play just a minute or so of that video now, which has been the genesis or inspiration for virtual choir videos around the world. The translation of the title of this piece, Lux Aurumque, simply means light and gold, and the text continues describing the arrival and the birth of the Christ child. But when Eric was with us this last November as a guest conductor for our concert series with the Florida Orchestra, he described the entire piece being based upon breath and the act of breathing. Each section takes one simple musical idea, then expands and elongates in each repetition, and each new section then becomes an introspective and reflective moment. Instead of this being a piece that is performed at or for an audience, it's really more of a piece that an audience experiences with the performers as sort of a type of musical meditation. We'll play a recent video recording of this signature Master Chorale commission from our 40th anniversary tour performance, which took place in the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York City this past June. That was Luxa Rumque, Master Chorale of Tampa Bay, original commissioned piece by Eric Whitacre, and a performance of the Master Chorale of Tampa Bay just last year for our 40th anniversary at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York City. We'll now welcome our next featured Master Chorale member, who used to be a seatmate of mine when I was a member of the Master Chorale, Robert Hicks. Bob, are you there?
Yes, I am, Brett. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
We're doing fine. Roz and I are staying safe. Hope everyone is too.
Excellent. Yeah, hopefully we all are staying safe and healthy and sane, most importantly of all. And just so folks understand on the program, Bob mentioned his wife, Roz, and Roz was a soprano member of the chorale for how many years about, Bob?
Well, we've both been in the chorale a little more than 20 years. We're taking a little break now, but yeah, we both joined together, 98.
Okay. Well, just kind of so we can get to know you a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved initially with the Master Chorale in 98.
Oh, gee. Well, I guess it's been the way the months pass now, it seems like more than just 2 decades ago. But we were both sang for a long time and auditioned with Mike Scheibe then. And I learned to play guitar way back in the folk scare days of the 60s. I don't sing or play for money anymore, but sometimes people actually pay me now to stop singing and playing. That's another story.
Yeah, but that's a pretty high price, so it's difficult for the Master Chorale to afford, you know?
It's true.
Well, tell us a little bit about the song that you prepared for us this afternoon.
Well, this is a Carole King song. It's actually 49 years old, and I've been playing it and singing it pretty much that long. And it's one of my favorite songs. James Taylor recorded it actually before Carole King did. And it seems like in these sort of strange times that having friends and being with friends is especially important. And I want to give out a shout out to my son-in-law, Phil Traynor, who plays some bass on this.
Fantastic. Well, I certainly echo your sentiments that this is certainly an appropriate song for the challenging times that are facing the country and certainly our choral communities right now too. So let's go ahead and listen to You've Got a Friend by Carole King with Bob Hicks on guitar, Phil Traynor on bass.
When you're down and trouble and you need some love and care, and nothing is going right, close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, hey, now all you've got to do is call, and I'll be there, yes I will. You got a friend. When the sky above you grows dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind begins to blow, keep your head together and just call my name out loud. Soon you'll hear me knocking upon your door. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, say now all you've got to do is call. take your soul if you let them, but don't you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, hey, now all you've got to do is call, and I'll be there, yes I will. You got a friend, ain't it good to know? You got a friend.
That was You've Got a Friend, performed by Master Chorale board member and singing member Robert Hicks. A beautiful, beautiful tune and beautiful rendition. And if you stay tuned after our final performance or our final selection, you'll also be rewarded with an encore verse that is specific to our times of social distancing for You've Got a Friend. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our afternoon together, but it's been so wonderful connecting with you all and having you all be a part of our Measure by Measure Reflections program. So thank you all so much for being here. And thank you also to all of our members for preparing these beautiful live broadcast recordings that we're able to highlight. As you can hear from our conversations with our members and the history of the Master Chorale, this is a very important and life-changing community organization in the Tampa Bay area. Art helps us make sense of a world that doesn't seem to make sense very often. And in this country, art does not exist without philanthropy. Our organization, of course, is funded by grants and foundations, but it's not enough, not nearly enough to support the programming and the types of experience that we create for our singers and our community. So if you've enjoyed what you've heard today, if you were moved or inspired by the musical messages and value this sort of experience in your Tampa Bay area, I encourage you to head on over to masterchorale.com and consider supporting the Master Chorale of Tampa Bay through a tax-deductible donation. Now, our program will finish with a special arrangement that was composed specifically for the Master Chorale and was composed by a singing member, bass section leader, and project manager, Mr. Jason Burke. This is, of course, an arrangement of Irving Berlin's Give Me Your Tired, Your Poor, God Bless America, conducted by Dr. James K. Bass. Thanks again so much for joining us this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to learn more about the Master Chorale, please go ahead and visit our website at masterchorale.com. And to end our afternoon, please also enjoy one last very special encore social distancing or COVID-19 verse of You've Got a Friend by Bob Hicks.
1, 2, 3. You're locked down and lonesome, but you feel the need to sing. And there's nothing and no place to go for fun. Turn on your shower, don't be shy, and let that vibrato ring. Put on a show for an audience of one. You just sing out your song, 'cause you know wherever I am, I can't hear you. I'm in quarantine. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, Zoom me and I'll take your call. I may be hunkered down until we get a vaccine.
Thanks again, everyone, so much for joining us this afternoon, and a special shout out to Bob for that wonderful encore verse. Have a wonderful afternoon. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay sane. Thank you all so much for joining us today.